is Father Regis Ryan, a priest from the Diocese of Pittsburgh. And for a diocesan priest, I must say that I've lived a very stable style of life. In 1975, I found myself assigned to and living in the very ordinary world of McKees Rocks, Pennsylvania. I'm still there, having once been a thriving industrial town by 1975, and still until today, it continues to evolve into and remains an economically challenged neighborhood with great many needs. Through 40 years of listening, of reflection, of prayer, and sharing of a very community-focused process, we have been able to continue to struggle to meet the challenges and opportunities of that small town. More than once has that focus had to change. In the early years of my ministry, the elderly often appeared to be as sheep without a shepherd. Among a largely Eastern European population, many of the sons and daughters and grandsons and granddaughters had taken jobs elsewhere and moved away. The old ethnic doctors who had served that population so well had retired, moved away, or died. Medicare had just begun, but there was no pharmacy assistance plan, and so prescriptions, when acquired, were often left unfilled. The county coordinated transportation programs for the elderly and persons with disabilities had not even been formulated yet, and the housing stock was, to a large extent, deteriorating, and the widows especially were unable to make repairs and pay the taxes. And so our ministry there and good works were expended largely toward the elderly. The point of focus came next to be the young parents and their families. By the hundreds they came, often being single-parent families who struggled to support, nourish, and protect the children, always with less than adequate resources. In the midst of disturbed parents, crying babies, we struggled to capture and reflect the attitude of compassion in the life of service as reflected in the Gospels. To complicate matters, the epidemic of drug use hit our neighborhood, bringing with it the attendant challenges of violence, crime, and neglect. We had to pray for the grace to let God and let go, as we knew that saying to be one of the foundations of every 12-step program. The final iteration in our neighborhood came as property values declined and as the housing became affordable for persons with mental health challenges and some of the agencies who try to support them. Prayers often ascend now in gratitude for the degree of sanity that God has allowed us to maintain. To complicate matters, all these changes came in a neighborhood with a largely uncaring set of politicians, or worse, exploitive systems of service. Prayers for courage and patience were often on our lips and in our hearts. In the midst of all that community-focused ministry, I found myself intertwined with the Sisters of the Holy Family of Nazareth. I found that they, too, were challenged to change their focus of ministry through the years. Upon arriving in 1975, I was assigned as chaplain to the patients and staff at Ohio Valley General Hospital. The sisters still lived in that old house up on the hill, right across from the old barn. The order helped to administer the hospital, ran the School of Nursing, and served in so many other capacities there. They created an aura of kindness and caring for all those involved, but were eventually invited to adjust their presence there. Then through all these years, I've been invited to Holy Family Institute to celebrate liturgy with the children. For more than 100 years, the orphans, then neglected and sometimes abused children, found that same aforementioned kindness and caring during their formative years. And now those groups of children and their group homes are gone. Next, the order touched my life, providing a close working relationship with Nazareth Housing Services, providing rehab and restoration and permanent housing for many of the needy families in our needy neighborhood. The leadership of that fine program, along with Holy Family Manor, has passed into others' hands even as the order listens to find out how it might continue to express itself in ministry and good works. In all these experiences, I was impressed by the ability of the sisters to respond to the challenges presented, to change when necessary, and to try to listen closely to what God might be asking of them. If you listen attentively to the scriptures, you'll hear the invitation, the spirit of the same call to be faithful and yet to change. almost always that call was met with questions and trepidation. Consider, for example, Moses, who did not desire to leave his quiet pastoral life. And besides that, he said he couldn't speak so very well. When Jeremiah was called, he proclaimed that he was much too young for such a change in his life. Isaiah humbly proclaimed that he was totally unworthy to consider such a new challenge in his life. The prophet Amos, it seems, would have been much more satisfied to remain a shepherd and a dresser of sycamores. Those jobs gave him much less grief than the powerful people whom God called him to castigate. In the pages of the New Testament, Mary, the mother of Jesus, wanted to know how could all this be. Upon listening to the voice of God, the changes in her life were drastic and immediate. Then we have St. Paul, who did not even know the one who was calling him to change his whole way of life. All of these biblical characters and so many others evolved to that point of faithful listening, of deep reflection, of reaching out to find God in the ordinary life of the time, the place and circumstances in which they lived. And so, like so many others, we have been invited, individually and all together as a community, as a country, and as a family of God on this earth, to faithful reflection, patient contemplation, so that those grace-filled gifts of faithfulness and perseverance might anchor in us a world of continuing change. The inspired word which we read each day invites us to listen, reflect, and be faithful. But all this makes sense in this truly challenging world only if we can loudly proclaim, as St. Paul tells his friends then and tells us now. We give thanks to God unceasingly, that in receiving the word of God from hearing us, you receive not a human word, but as it truly is the word of God, which is now at work in you who believe.
When darkness falls upon your heart and soul, I'll be the light that shines for you. When you forget how beautiful you are, I'll be there to remind you. When you can't find your way, I'll find when you